Good afternoon. If you usually turn into our uh, torn into political broadcast, you probably used to seeing my brother Greg Roberts hosting. We allowed Greg to take some vacation time today. And so my name is Pastor Melvin Burns. I've co-hosted with him from time to time, but he's given me the reins and allowing me to fly solo today. So pull up a chair, grab your earphones. Hope that you will get something out of the program today. We have a good program for you. Again, this is Torn in Two. Um, and you can, as you see the broadcast there, the information there, you can always ask questions as we go through and make your comments. I'm excited to tell you all about our guest today and present her to you. In Michigan, we have winter, spring, summer, and fall, and we also have election season, which is coming up on us. And so our guest today is Miss Ebony Davis, who's a candidate for Muskegon Heights City Council. Some of you may know her as Gemini the Poet. If you all welcome her to the show. Hello, Miss Davis.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing today?
I'm better now that I'm not waiting at the doctor's office for an
Oh,
eternity.
did you have a long day, long morning?
Yeah, it was a good morning until I got to the doctor's office and was sitting
Oh,
there for an hour.
oh gosh. Oh, that's never fun. And you always try to have something with you to read or something productive to do in those long waiting periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Good to have you on with us this afternoon. We're going to just kind of kick back, relax, and some folks in town may know you, some don't. We have folks in Muskegon and outside of Muskegon uh, listening to the broadcast and watching the broadcast. So this is a chance for a lot of folks to get to know you. Why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Um, yeah, it's like when I think about that, that's a lot that comes to mind. Well, I was born and raised in downtown Muskegon. I am a proud Big Red.
Okay.
Indian, not the M. I was an
Okay.
Indian.
Okay.
um, and I was a teenage mother at the age of 15, going into 16.
Okay.
I lost my daughter to whooping cough, pertussis complications. And 9 months prior to losing my daughter, I lost my grandmother on my dad's side. Um,
Okay.
9 months after I lost my daughter, I lost my great aunt to cancer. And then 9 months after that, I lost another aunt who was like a second mother to me. Um, and I went into a state of depression
Okay.
um, because coming up, therapy was kind of like taboo in our community.
Sure. Sure.
And so I held a lot in. I was kind of lost. 2007, I believe, my best friend was killed in a car accident. And I had a lot of thoughts going through my head, and I decided to write. And I ended up performing at her funeral, and that was the first time I had ever really performed poetry.
Okay.
Um, Shortly after that, I did a couple. I got invited to an open mic by Dearica Nichols Lewis, and
Mhm.
in 2010, when Muskegon had like a surge of violence, the first killing that happened at Carbon nightclub was actually a childhood friend I had grew up with and
Mhm.
whose kids are my cousin. And
Okay.
so again, I was had a lot of emotions. I decided to write, and
Mhm.
some way somehow it came across Big Rob and PA, and they called me into the radio to do it on air. And from that day forth, they've kind of just been like that backbone, mentors, and support and pushers that
Mhm.
helped birth Gemini the Poet. And from there, it just I've come to who I am now. I was always raised in church. Not gonna say I always was good in church. um, and I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years now. I got invited to Pastor Duran's Bible study.
Okay.
And I knew Pastor Duran from basketball and school, and he kind of grew up my family. So from the first night I went, it changed my life for the best.
Okay.
I've grown spiritually, and in growing spiritually, the one thing I've always prayed for is to allow me to walk in my purpose, my God given purpose.
That's,
And
Pastor Durham's going to teach you that.
yes, he will.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and in doing that, it's being obedient and doing what I know I should do.
Okay.
And praying before I do anything. Has the blessings that's come my way sometimes leave me speechless. It all really hasn't settled in.
Hmm.
I mentor the Lady Reds basketball team.
Okay.
I work for the Poppin program at Muskegon MCEC.
Okay.
I'm also with the Diatribe Inc. of Grand Rapids as a teaching artist. We have a summer program here this summer. That was kind of a requirement for me to do it. Was
Okay.
we had to have one in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Um, and that wraps up at the end of the month. We have a big performance coming up for the kids to display their poems.
Okay.
Um, Recently opened a business,
Okay.
and now I'm running for city council.
Okay. So what is the name Gemini the poet? Where does that come from?
So, before I went to the open mic, I realized everybody else had these poet names, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
There's so many different sides to me, and I'm like, but the poet sounds too like you hear poetry, you think leaves in the trees. Duh is gonna keep that going. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna go a little bit hood with it. The poet. And so
Give it a little sauce. Okay.
yeah, and so it stuck with me after that.
All right. Okay. Well, being a fellow Gemini, I know those things people say about us. I don't know if they're true or not, but I understand. So you started a business. Tell us what about the business you started.
I have poetic aspirations. It's
Okay.
with that I have a greeting card line that I do custom greeting cards. I do everyday greeting cards because I get tired of like going to shop for cards and there's really nothing but that one little small section we got and you have to say,
Is it the is it
this
the
kind
Oprah,
of fits.
the mahogany section or the Oprah Winfrey section? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Very nice.
I was actually doing security one night. And I was like, I should do greeting cards. So I bought
Uh-huh.
the software and went to playing around and it kind of just took off because I do offer custom cards as well,
Okay.
where people can send me a picture and tell me what they love about the person, and
Okay.
I come up with the poem and design it, and they have their own custom card. I do logos, banners, business cards, flyers, computer repair. I'm currently waiting on Apple to get back to me because I'll also be doing hopefully Apple service repairs.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it's like every Gemini personality has a job.
At least one, one or two.
Yeah,
So now I want to ask you this, and we're going to get to the political stuff, but I think it's important people to get to know the person. Um,
definitely.
you talked about those tragedies you went through in your life, and then having this, sort of going to church and sort of. I think a lot of us we went to church when we were younger, but then didn't necessarily mature spiritually.
Mhm.
But I think just for a minute, the idea and again, I know Pastor Durham, and I know one of his ministers real well, and sort of how he ministers. I love the brother, but maybe talk for a minute about how that spiritual connection even uh, brought out some of all the things you're doing now, and how it kind of helped you focus the things you're supposed to be doing.
One thing Mr. Duran has always told from the beginning of me attending was, he doesn't expect us to be perfect. But at the same time, we got to understand that we're kingdom living, and when we're out here, we're representing God's kingdom, and
Hmm.
we have to be like Jesus with skin on. And so, in doing that, it kind of made me reevaluate my response to
Okay.
certain things because I'm very
Uh-huh.
vocal.
Okay.
Um, but I also had to learn what to and what not to give my energy to.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I realized that, not that I asked for it, but a lot of kids kind of watch me. And so I had to keep that in mind with a lot of things that I do, that I'm being watched. And
Mm-hmm.
I know coming up, I had people that were older than me that I watched and how it affected me. So I don't want to ever have a negative effect to see. I don't want to have a negative effect for the kids to see. I want to show them that, with Pastor Duran, I understand that the things that I went through, that yes, they were a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that tribulations are part of our testimony. And after the lessons come the blessings, and that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely what I feel has come since I've became obedient. I started tithing, because now I'm not gonna say I'm. It's easy because I'm still struggling with it. Because there be times I'll be like, God, I'm broke now. You
Yeah,
sure you want me to do this?
that level
And
of faith slips in there, doesn't it? Yeah.
but in being obedient, I will say that every time I've paid my tithes, whether it was my last or I had it to give, I've been blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still growing, but with the right leadership and the people encouraging you, especially like Pastor Duran is always available. Um, and it's just his guidance and him being real with you. Like, he won't tell
Mm-hmm.
you what you want to hear, he'll tell you what you need to hear.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
I respect that.
Good.
And it's helped me grow.
Oh, good, good. So you're sitting around home one day and all those things, the business, the poetry, and you say, you know what I need on my plate? I need to be on city council. Tell us what made you decide to run for city council.
Whew. Uh, yes, because even with doing this, I'm not a politician. I'm simply a person with passion for their community that wants to see the best.
Okay.
And my best friends, we have a thing where we do vision boards each year.
Okay.
And I had been watching a few of the council meetings, and not gonna say I was too happy with how the interactions were going, because at the end of the day, I could watch an argument for 3.5 hours that's personal and it's not really focusing on the community. And to me, even though I'm big red, I say I'm a big red tiger because I feel that we're all one way connected. But
Okay.
um, and looking and seeing that and knowing, I've been here in the hikes now for 21 years,
Okay.
and I know the traditions that the hikes have had. I know the talent that resides here and how it's often overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it was time for me to take my fight from just within the community to at a larger table, to where I
Okay.
could be able to fight for them more effectively.
Okay.
And so I reached out to PA and Big Rob and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about running for city council." "Oh, so you're running for city council? You know you can't back out now." And here it is.
Okay. Okay. And so there's I think you don't officially start campaigning until I think after Labor Day or somewhere in September. So this is sort of the soft campaign period. But for those of you that don't know, there are 8 people running for 3 seats, and it's the first Tuesday. So the first Tuesday in November, election time, and there are 3 incumbents running. So there's a total of 8 candidates, 3 seats. And so, Miss Ebony Gemini, the poet Davis, people got to look at those candidates and decide why you versus any of those other people.
I mean, again, I think I've been doing this as far as fighting for the community for the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
I, I've 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 had the target on my back for speaking up. I ruffled a couple feathers speaking up, and
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's like our youth need to have something that we can pass to them. And in order to do that, they need people who are sitting there who can represent the community, who interacts with the community, who the community sees, who the community has access to, who
Mm-hmm.
the community doesn't feel is going to just blow them off once they say their problem and go about their way.
Okay.
Um, and I can promise you that anyone who votes for me, And if for those that know me, I have no problem going against the grain for what I believe is best for my community, well, our community, I'm sorry. And that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get Gemini the poet, the political version, but that old fire is still inside of me burning because again, I want to see hikes blossom.
Okay. Jack Page, who was a candidate himself, wants you to know that he's glad to see you in the political candidate forum. He thanks you for running for council. He says, "Are you ready if you win? Are you ready to study the job?" And I think Jack is probably saying that from experience. And then, what if you don't win? He says the same question he asked himself as a candidate. He wishes you good luck. He also says he's enjoyed seeing you at events and he is pulling for you. So
Ah,
it's just
thank you.
nice to hear that. Jack had a little we had a little discussion about him last week, and he was very gracious in some incidents that occurred there. But he makes a good point again. This idea, you've seen the council meetings. All these things. It's interesting. COVID has changed our world in a way that people. I used to sit in council meetings, and we'd go nights with one person, two people there. Now through COVID, people get to sit at home and watch meetings, which I think is good. That more people are actually seeing what's going on and seeing the process and seeing the good and the bad of it. And so you've had a chance to watch those meetings over the last year. And what things strike you more? Let me ask you this first. What do you think are the traits that a person needs to bring to the table if they want to sit on city council?
Number one, we're all adults. So to me, you should be able to sit and have a conversation even if you don't agree without disrespect.
Okay.
Accountability. If you mess up, have no problem with admitting that you messed up and acknowledge a mistake. But then how you plan on fixing that mistake or learning from that mistake.
Okay.
Um, I think they have to be transparent and more than anything, which is one of the things is one of the things that's my goal is not even goal because it's gonna happen is to have a community that knows that I interact with them. I get their input. I get their feedback on what they need, what they desire from us on that council. And I feel anybody in that position, you're not fighting for yourself. It's more than a title. I could care less about a title.
Hmm.
When you take that, when you make that pledge for that role, you are at that point saying that the community comes first, and that's my main priority is the community and the people that reside in it.
Okay. How do the council, seven people, was, seven people, mayor and six council members. Um, Maybe tell us, how your experience of working with a group of people who all know their right, all have the right ideas. You may not even be the leader of that group, but how do you work in a group when people have these diverse interests and personalities? Maybe you've had some experience in that area. How do you get in a group like that and hear people and be heard?
I'm a firm believer, and I respect everybody's right to an opinion, everybody's right to input. But at the same time, I feel that if you're gonna have an argument, you got to have some type of support and evidence to go with that to support that. It just can't be because I said so, or or because this is what I want. Um, I worked with some people that I may not have been fond of. However, it's about respect. You give it to get it, and to me, there's nothing going to be accomplished by trying to be the loudest or disrespectful. Everybody has to be have to be. They can't, everybody can't be the chief.
Hmm. Yeah.
and and so with working with a big group of people, um, again, I'm very vocal. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm vocal. So, I have no problem letting someone get their point out and listening to their view. But I will also expect the same in return.
Okay. Before we're done, I'm gonna need you to name some of those people you weren't fond of working with. No, I'm just kidding. We want names. So.
Ooh, you're gonna get Mr. Duran calling my phone, Ebony.
Were you talking about me? As you're out talking to people, people know you're a candidate now. What's some of the feedback you're hearing from people? Things they're looking for out of council people that maybe they want to see more of or they're not seeing.
Surprisingly, I've had quite a few people that I've never met before, but who are aware of some of the and things I've done within the community, who's
Mhm.
approached me and stated that they're looking forward to support me in any way they can.
Okay.
I have a lot of people who what's the nice way to say it? Um, may not have the best career choice and make the best decisions.
Uh-huh.
That are also looking forward to me running, and are actually, some of them are saying they're coming out for the first time in a long time to vote, because they feel that they'll have someone who truly represents the community and that they know
Mhm.
they can count on.
Mhm.
And so
Okay.
that's the biggest thing with everybody. Just like, we know you, we know your passion, um, and you have our support, and that's just been like the biggest thing since I made the announcement.
Okay. That's we talk about this issue a lot on this program. Um, Last council election, I believe candidates won with 300 or so votes in a community where we have a few thousand registered voters. What do you say to those people who made that comment to you, where they feel like they haven't had a voice or registered and haven't voted? What do you say to those people with you being a candidate coming up? What would you say to them if they felt like they haven't been represented?
That's exactly why they need to vote. The biggest mistake or misconception you can have is that your vote doesn't count. And I tell people all the time, even if I'm not running, I'm heavy on the get out to vote. I offer free rides every time there's an election.
Okay.
When I was working for Geek Squad, I would even take the day off to give people rides to the
Okay.
polls. And I tell them that it's every election, whether it's the presidential election or your local election. The local election to me is more important than the presidential, because those are the ones that are going to affect you directly.
Okay. All right. You must have heard my speech last week. No. But I think you touched on something important, and again, I'm sure you do the same thing. We'll get 60-70% participation in the presidential election. Most people can't tell you the last bill that was passed in Congress, but there's people at City Hall making decisions about your water bill and your property taxes. That again, two people come to a meeting, one person comes to a meeting in months. So how do we get that message to people? Again, these are decisions that are affecting you.
I mean, unfortunately, with the history of not being represented
Hmm.
fully, a lot of people have that hurt in them, so their guards are up.
Yeah.
And it's similar to how I feel about our youth. Our youth feel lost, and their guards is up because they have trust issues. Because the ones who've always claimed to care, care when it's convenient. And so
Mhm.
you have to build that trust and that relationship with those people of your community, just like you have to build a relationship if you're going to be in a relationship. And that's the biggest thing for me, is to get out here so people can know who I am. Like, there's never an offensive question. There's never a bad question or stupid question, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Hmm.
And what I would rather you come to me and get the answer from me than to get the answer from somebody who can't speak for me. I'm the best person to speak for me.
Yes. Yes. You should know Will Roberson wants you to know he is very proud of you and wishing you the best in the. He says not if you win, but when you win and when you're elected. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mr.
so
Roberson.
much.
Yeah. Tell me something. So you mentioned PA and Big Rob, and certainly they have been big encouragers in our community for a lot of people. And their support and encouragement has been invaluable. Who are some other people that have influenced you? You sort of maybe taken parts from or been mentors to you over the past few years.
Um, Kim Sims has been amazing since we met when she first ran for mayor.
Okay.
Um, she's been in my life since, and her wisdom and knowledge and willingness to feed into me,
Okay.
it's greatly appreciated. Stephanie Marion has been another great influence. Brian Willer has been a great influence. And my mom and my aunts and uncles, my family support and they're pouring into me that there's nothing I can't do.
Hmm.
It's just been amazing. Let's see, my best friends, my poetry family. Uh, I'm think I'm missing somebody, and I can feel it in my soul.
Yeah. They'll call you later on and let you know you didn't
I
know.
know Miss Patterson. Miss Patterson actually came and visited me when I first opened my business and sat and talked with me for an hour.
Oh, wow.
And to hear someone of her stature
Hmm.
say they support me and stand behind me means a lot because she's iconic. Like I look at the icons we have in our city and the fact that so many of them show support and love and have no problem with, oh, Ebony, just give me a call, or they'll call me if I'm off. And it's just, I truly appreciate it.
Hmm. You think that's something? I think I hear you say that, and you think that's something a lot of people don't understand. That was very generous of her to do that. I mean, she took her time to come see you. Have you been surprised, or is it just you're unveiling something a lot of people don't know? The people that are with experience that are willing to share it, if you're willing to listen.
It there's there's some.
Hmm.
I wish there was more because anybody who knows me know I'm big on the youth. The youth need it.
Hmm.
And there's so many of our elders who have that wisdom who's kind of given up.
Hmm.
And so to have the ones that haven't given up on us yet, and willing to feed into our spirits, um, you can't put a price on that. Like
Hmm.
that kind of love, support, and encouragement is needed. And I
Hmm.
think if we got back to doing that more often,
Hmm.
we could see our city turn around a lot
Hmm.
sooner than later.
So how do we bridge that gap? Well, I don't know. I don't know where I'm in the age range, but for older, experienced people, again, who sometimes are hesitant, to how to approach, or they may have thoughts. How do you think we bridge that gap between older people who've had wisdom, experience, and younger people who have the energy and the vigor now? And there's a gap between information shared and communication and sharing common ideas. Do you have some thoughts about how maybe we bring those groups closer together?
Yes, I just seen a question in the chat really quick that I'm gonna answer before I forget. It was Ebony. What about Paul Billings? I'm sure he's giving you this platform to reach out to your constituents. PA is, as I've said throughout this interview, PA and Big Rob have played a major part in Gemini the Poet being who Gemini the Poet is. That's why there is absolutely nothing they can't ask of me that I won't do.
Hmm.
Um, Now, as far as bridging the gap, you're gonna bridge that gap. It's no magic way to do it. It has to be genuine and from the heart.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is judging a book before you read it.
Okay.
And that's one thing I've learned in doing the work I've done this in the past decade is I don't judge anybody's situation. I don't judge what anybody do. I get to know that person and go from there. And once you a person see that they can have conversation and you're not judging, but you're having dialogue and trying to get a better understanding of them, they'll let that guard down. So to bridge that gap, more than anything, whoever is elected for council needs to be present within the community that you serve.
Okay. Okay. To Mr. Christian Bachman. Um, Again, this is the Torn in Two political show, and somewhere between now and every election, this show was kind of birthed out of several of us that do election coverage. As you know, Ms. Days, we will have interviewed every candidate probably prior to election, and even on election day, we will get it. We will have a chance to interview all the candidates. So, I mean, your relationship with PA is from personal, but I just want to make it clear to the listeners, um,
Yeah,
as we should. We're going to give people a chance to hear all the candidates
absolutely.
and interview them and ask questions and give them a chance to talk about themselves. And our goal is to inform and educate the community. But I appreciate his comment. And so, and you had mentioned earlier your prior even to you running for candidate, they have encouraged you in your career and your profession. So I just wanted to make that clear. This is not not something we're doing for one candidate. In
No,
particular.
please don't think that, because
Yeah,
people will think that, especially with me. Uh,
yeah. So that would be a way to get elected in the worst way sometimes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but this is the 202 Political Show, folks. We're on with Miss Ebony Davis, also known as Gemini the Poet. I hope that if you get a chance to ask your questions, we want to get those on. We've been having some interesting discussion and dialogue, again, about the upcoming Muskegon Heights City Council election. It takes place, I should have the date, but it'll be the first Tuesday following the first Monday in
November
November.
2nd.
November 2nd? Okay,
Yes.
so the first is a Monday. So you have time to get to know the candidates, hear what they're about, and come out and vote, which we hope you will all do. Ms. Davis, again, I appreciate the discussion and dialogue we're having today. It's good for us to be able to talk in this forum. Your work with the youth in this community, have you given some thought to some ways we can get the youth more to we know you don't see young people, and I don't know where you put yourself, and I don't even know your age, but I can look around the council room, and when I see people older than me, I know it's not a young group. So how do we get people at least younger than me, if not interested in elected office, but understanding that they should come to meetings, they can have a voice, and I appreciate the fact you represent that group. But how do we get them in this process?
Again, that goes back to being present outside of just that Monday when it's at that council meeting.
Okay.
You have to show them. And unfortunately, in Muskegon, like I said, it's a lot of hurt from not feeling like you're properly represented.
Mm-hmm.
So to get them to come, you have to show them why they need to come.
Mm-hmm.
Not just think because it's posted on social media, or everybody should know that it happens every other Monday. No, that's not how it works. It has to be a
Mm-hmm.
better communication with the
Mm-hmm.
citizens. And when something major is going to be discussed, or even if it's not major, but
Mm-hmm.
with the major things especially, citizens find out after the fact, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They should be given the same opportunity to know ahead of time so they can be present if they have an issue, because once it's passed, your hands are washed. There's not much you can do about it.
Right. Right. Let me ask you, have you some other aspects of, we talked a lot about the community aspect, but some other aspects of council, if you had a chance to think about them, if you haven't, that's fine. Our community interacts with Muskegon, our neighbor, your native land, and the other communities around us, Roosevelt Park, North Shores, Freeport Township. Have you given any thought to our relationship with those communities, things we should be doing or should not be doing with those communities as we go forward in the future here?
Actually, I have. One thing that's we're working on a date. But Ken Johnson is running for mayor downtown, and me and Ken graduated together.
Okay.
And so I'm going off Big Bro Will on this one. When we are elected, we plan on working together to bridge that gap with downtown and the Heights, for the simple fact, I want the Heights residents to be able to have the same opportunities and access to the same grants and programs that downtown citizens have.
Okay.
So we're gonna put a game plan together to make sure that happens. But the date that we're gonna be putting out is we're gonna actually do a block party on Peck Street that starts downtown and crosses into the Heights, to
Okay.
show how we're going to try to build that relationship to work together.
Okay.
And give us in the Heights the same love and dedication that they show the other part.
Okay. Okay. I mentioned people crossing the tracks, and I realized the tracks aren't even there anymore. I grew up one block, off the tracks on Reynolds. So I mentioned the tracks. I'm like, the tracks aren't there. I don't even make any sense for me to say that anymore.
Hey, coming up the tracks was there for me.
Yeah, it's like, it's just like, it's like, what are you
It's
talking about?
habit. It's
Yeah,
habit.
in my mind, they're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you? How about some of our city services? And again, I don't, I'm not asking you to, I'm sure there's some levels of information to get as a council person, but we've got our police service, our fire service, and those things, public works. I'm sure as you've become more interested in the candidates, you've had a chance to maybe look at those in a different kind of light. Any things there you've seen or have some thoughts about maybe you want to talk about today?
Um, First, I think it's like great that Mo Sane is the chief.
Hmm.
Because again, he's somebody that the community knows, somebody that the community feels comfortable with, that you can have that discussion with and see outside of just his uniform.
Hmm.
And so one of the things I wanted to do was just to help keep that going, help that momentum going, and grow it even bigger with what he's been doing to
Hmm.
try to bridge the gap with the community. I want to utilize this position to work harder with the police to get the community. I'm basically trying to bring the village back. That's actually my motto: is rebuilding the image while rebuilding the village. And to do so, we have to interact with our law enforcement.
Hmm.
Because not all of them are bad. I know it's kind of cliche in these days and time, but
Hmm.
that's the truth of the matter. One of the biggest things that I think kind of doesn't sit well with me is the cemetery upkeep. Because a majority of my family is buried there, including my daughter, and so I know the conditions out there, and I
Hmm.
know that if you don't take the time to go out there and make sure your loved ones plot is cleaned and not overran with trash or overgrown grass, you have to do it yourself. And I don't think, to me, that's kind of disrespectful in a way to the loved one's family who has to go out there to visit their loved ones in a cemetery already, and then have to deal with it not being kept up and presentable.
Okay. Man, true. Yeah, and 'cause my parents are there as well, and so those are some really good issues. How about I'm just throwing some. How about the city's relationship with the schools? Um, school. They used to say school, but now kids in our community actually are at several different schools. But have you given some thought to that aspect of city and school?
Sitting in school, for me, again, I know I graduated as a big red, but I remember coming up, Tiger Pride was like nothing you've ever seen. Like it was like something
Hmm.
out of a movie.
Hmm.
And excuse me, when Hikes went through its situation, excuse me,
Hmm.
when Hikes went through the change into an academy and the different things that was happening, and a lot of adults kind of wrote our kids off.
Hmm.
Excuse me, and there wasn't, to me, enough council people speaking up and going to bat for those kids, and to kind of give them some reassurance that they weren't being wrote off as well. I think we have to be present more, supporting our kids. And it's like, especially with the sports, like so many kids go to sports as an outlet. And could you imagine how they would think if they got, yo, the mayor came out to see me play. Yo, the city council team is here to watch us play. They're here to support us. And that relationship with the school is critical, because it involves our kids.
Okay. We have another comment here from Mary Bird. Mary says many candidates don't know what a city commissioner job description or what a mayor job description is, and that's probably true. A lot of people, again, I'm sure you find this when you say, run for mayor or council, people think the mayor has a job at City Hall, then you're there 24/7, those types of things. So it also gives you a chance to do some education for people in terms of our structure of government, what things the government does and doesn't do. Um, I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to do some of that as well.
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Like, if I could, I tell you the clear cut definition?
Go right
No,
ahead.
no, not at all. I
Yeah.
couldn't.
If I say if you can nail it, let me know. Yeah.
um, but just as I've done with anything I've done over the last 10 to 12 years, before I decided to make this run,
Hmm.
I prayed for months about it.
Okay.
It wasn't just something that I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna do it." No, I
Hmm.
had to be, it had to be put into my spirit that this was what it was meant for me to do.
Okay.
Um, and so since I've decided, have I started doing research and started looking into certain things? Yes. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not about me. I
Hmm.
would be representing a community of people whose livelihood depends on the decisions I make, I help make. And so therefore I have to do my due diligence into serving them properly.
Okay. Can you think of something that, as you start looking at this more seriously, that surprised you about being a city council member that you didn't realize?
Whoo child. Uh, I had no idea that you had to have a federal ID number.
Mhm.
Um, the paperwork side of it, I'm not a fan of. I just want to fight for the city. That's it. That's all. But
Uh-huh.
the fundraising and getting endorsements and things of that nature, it's a bit much, especially for me because I don't really like to ask people for anything.
Okay.
So,
Well, you can have to ask them for their votes. So
well, yeah, yeah, the votes is
I know
fine.
what you mean.
The votes I could do, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more with the paperwork. And I got to shout out Taiwan Thurgill because he reached out the moment he heard I was running, and
Hmm.
he has been assisting me with getting to know the van system and the things I need to look for, and excuse me, the things I need to do, and getting a timeline together. And so it's a lot. It's a lot more than what people think. I'm gonna be honest because I had no idea that it was gonna
Okay.
be half of what it is.
Okay. Well, good. Good. I look forward to talking to you a couple of months down the road. Because I'm going to ask you that same question. So I look forward to your answer, and even from campaigning, some of the things you'll learn. So it'll be. Have you since you all filed, I think it was in mid-July. Have you, without naming any names, have you heard from any of the other candidates that are running?
Yes, I've actually don't say no names. I almost said something.
Yeah, you want
Um,
to name names? It depends on what they said, maybe.
I know. Honestly, I've actually heard from every candidate that's running, except the ones who are currently in the seats that are going to get up, that we're going up against.
Uh-huh.
But all of the other candidates I have had um, communication with.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Maybe something said about incumbents, so that people coming to take their roles, but and I'm sure somewhere down the line you all will meet in some type of forum to have discussions and debates and those types of things. Um,
Yes.
so what's been the best part of this process? So once you decided I'm going to do this, what for you has been the paperwork, the committees, all that stuff. Some of that's drudgery. That's the stuff people don't see behind the scenes. What has been the best part of this so far?
The best part is the love that I'm being shown from my community.
Hmm.
Excuse me, the support and love. Even if I didn't win, I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing now anyway.
Hmm.
And to know that I had so many people supporting and believing in me means more than anything.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask you this question. This is, when I sit down and think of this, I knew I had this question I was going to ask you. So, being the poet that you are, has this candidacy inspired you to write anything in the time that you've been into this?
Yes, it did. And see, I
Okay.
knew that was gonna come. See,
Okay.
the poem always, the poet always, that part
Okay.
hits becomes
Okay. Not your. Now, I don't want to hear your inauguration point. I'm just kidding.
oh no, 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 it's not inauguration.
But
It's more like a promo.
okay. But has it stirred that process and
Yeah, it helps me get with poetry. Poetry is therapeutic to me.
mhm.
And when I have a bunch of thoughts, sometimes I can become overwhelmed by the various emotions because I'm an emotional person.
Okay.
And I'll carry the weight of others, and so the healthy way to get that off of me is to write. So
Okay.
yeah, this has definitely made me pull out the pen a couple times and
Okay.
and get to writing.
Okay. Now, do you? I know you do the Greek guys. Do you have any published books at this time?
Yes, I actually have 3 books.
Okay. Okay. Well, you can get a plug in for those. I wasn't sure. I thought I had that. Feel free to get a plug in for those.
They are at my shop here at 3312 Glade Street in Muskegon Heights. I have my first book, which was Look in My Eyes, Feel My Pain. Then I have my second book, The Gemini Chronicles, Volume 1 and 2. So that's the third one.
Okay.
And then I also did a motivational journal that I have available.
Okay. Very good. So folks can find his address again, 30,
3312 Glade Street,
36.
Muskegon
Okay,
Heights.
good. Now,
Right
young
by
people,
Hearthstone.
okay. So now you're a business owner. And so you started that before you were interested in this council process. And I know what was that process like? So now if somebody says, I want to start a business, if you're a council person, you have a different perspective as in one who has started that process way before you were interested in council. And so what was that process like? Are there some things that you learned from that you would say, I want to see that different, or people ought to make sure they understand this if they're looking to start a business?
Ooh, getting the business going was a testing time for me.
You want
well,
to tell them about that though?
yeah, well, yeah.
De-stress.
Well, it actually kind of it started off by getting scammed.
Oh
um,
gosh. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
it's okay because they met Gemini the poet, the
Oh,
activist, real soon.
okay. Okay.
And luckily we were able to get our money back and
Good.
be able to stay in the location.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I would tell, excuse me, is to make sure that you like the Duns and Broad Street number, your federal ID number. You also have to get the inspections done by the city. You have to make sure you have your sales license for the city. And it's a lot of things that people don't really look into before they decide they want to start and open a business.
Mm-hmm.
They think, hey, I got the name. They may have the federal ID and they just done. That's enough. No,
Yeah.
it's a lot of paperwork and logistics to cover and protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
from the insurance, excuse me, to the business bank account, the building the business credit. There's a lot of stuff that comes with it, and that's why when I do on social media, there's quite a few people who've reached out like, okay, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Can you tell me how? And I'm a firm believer that you don't just sit on information. If I can make it easier for the next person, why not tell them?
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
so, yeah, it's been an experience. I
So
love it because I'm able to do what I love full time.
yeah, how was dealing with the city in that process?
Cool, child.
Yeah.
Um, I applied for the sales tax license in February. I got it on my birthday in June.
Okay.
But it overall wasn't bad. Time wise, it was horrible. Communication wise, not the best.
Okay.
But um, once it was brought to their attention that I was still waiting on a response, it
Oh,
was kind of expedited. And since then, it was smooth sailing. But could the process be easier? Yes.
okay. Yeah. So there'll be some. You have an opportunity to share those experiences and hopefully maybe add some insight to that process.
Oh, definitely. Because anybody that knows me, I have no problem speaking up.
Good. Well, we're got a few more minutes left here, Ms. Davis. Anything we haven't talked about today that you want to make sure people know about you or they haven't covered that you want to talk about?
Um, I would just say that any questions or excuse me or concerns that you guys have, feel free to reach out to me on social media. If you see me in public, if you want to come by my shop, that's the one thing I want people to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to conversations. I'm open to questions. I don't get offended by questions. I don't get
Mm-hmm.
offended by someone wanting to know more about me, especially being the role that I'm fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty much an open book. I have no problem being open and honest with anybody about anything I've done or anything that I do. I'm a perfect imperfection, but I truly believe that I'm walking in God's purpose for me, and so in doing so, you take the good with the bad. So I know not everybody's going to be a fan of of me. That's all, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I want the citizens to know that I'm only doing this for the community. Um,
Hmm.
Nothing more, nothing less. And so, if you have any questions, cares, or concerns, Ebony Davis on Facebook, Gemini the Poet, you put that in. Either one of them will pop up my page. You can inbox me. And again, I'm at 3312 Glade Street in the Heights, a block up from Hearthstone, a block past La Soul Field. So if you want to drop in and see me, you
They,
can drop in and see me.
they could pick up lunch at either of those places and bring it and sit down with you. Yeah.
And I'll be doing a meet and greet soon. So if you
Okay.
haven't followed me on social media, please do because I'll be posting that soon. And September 2nd, the youth program that the Diachar brought here to Muskegon Heights at Mahali, the kids will be performing from 6:30 to 8:30. Come out then. You can come out to see me in my true element.
So then this part you say were you working with young people to teach them how to write poetry? Is that what you're saying you were doing, or did I misunderstand you?
Yes. The Diachar, we had a 9-week program here brought to Muskegon with the
Okay.
help of Health West.
Okay.
And we tie in mental illness and expressions, and we basically have been teaching the kids how to express themselves in a productive way.
Hmm.
And so on September 2nd, they'll be doing their grand performance where, like I told them, this is the one time you kids can make adults listen to you. Like,
Hmm.
you know how dope that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I think the best way for us to fix what's going on in the city is to hear from those that it's affecting more than anybody else.
Yeah. How in that 9 week period of time, how have you seen those youth take to writing poetry, and what kind of changes have you seen in them?
Participation was kind of light for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but again, I kind of expected it because it was something new. Um, but the kids that we have coming, a lot of them weren't too sure about writing poetry. They like, eh. But once we kind of explained to them, it's basically your thoughts, and you're expressing your thoughts. There's no right or wrong way to express your thoughts.
Hmm.
And we tie it into music. We show them different performances, and we have them analyze those performances. And since then, some of the soft spoken ones are starting to speak a little louder.
Hmm.
They're eager to participate. They're eager to answer, and they're kind of opening up. And
That's
like I
good.
told my fellow teaching artist that's doing it with me, G Foster, who's also a native of Muskegon, I said it's a trust thing with kids. They have to see that this isn't just something temporarily. Their guards are up, so until they warm up to us, we just got to go with the flow.
Hmm.
And luckily, they're letting them down with us now, and we have a good time.
Yeah. And I think you touched on some, so many of our young people, not in addition to COVID, but just being able to express themselves, and even the whole idea of mental health. I tell people, I go to the doctor every year for a physical, and there's so many things that we don't do concerning our mental health. We don't, we aren't taught ways to take care of our mental health, and since it starts from youth, our young people, a lot of them are just mentally unhealthy. We had Dr. Cedric Scott on maybe a month or two ago and talked about that very issue of just some of the mental health deficiencies in our community. And so things like whether it's music or sports, the arts that give them a way to express themselves and say what they want. They can't do with their words or with people around them. So I'm looking forward to trying to catch that September 2nd date and see what the young people come up with.
Yeah, it's and like I tell them, I say this this generation they've had to bury more friends than we ever had to, and a lot of them you can't even process one before another one happens, or and it's like so at this point, a lot of them just have it bottled in, so they're learning now. We're trying to teach them healthy ways to release it.
Hmm. Yeah. So who do you listen? Who do you read? Who do you listen to when you're trying to get in that zone and relax and de-stress in addition to your writing?
In addition to my writing, my favorite artists of just about all times, they're kind of tied. um, Nas, Lauryn Hill, um, DMX, J. Cole, Kendrick. Surprisingly, I've become a Jay Z fan.
Okay.
The new Jay Z. I love the new Jay Z.
Okay.
Um, and then sometimes I just have to go to like Anthony Hamilton and Fantasia. They kind of soothe me, and Lecrae. My playlist is kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, good. Good. Well, I hope in this time people have had a chance to learn a little bit more about you. I certainly have, and I've enjoyed this time. I know we've passed each other and met, in passing in the past, but I've appreciated this opportunity to sit down and talk with you. And I hope again we've got a number of comments, and I hope that our listening community has had a chance to meet you fully and learn a little bit more what you're about. I want to wish you the best of luck on your campaign. I've been around the political arena a few years, so again, I'm looking forward to talking to you late October, early November, and yeah, when you're worn down and you say, "Nobody told me it would be like this," but it's a tremendous process, and I appreciate you wanting to throw your hat in the ring and saying you have something to offer our community. You want to give us a couple of seconds closing thoughts, Ms. Davis?
First off, thanks for having me on the show. Again, to the citizens, I've been in the hikes for the last 21 years of my life, and I love this community just as much as I love my downtown roots. And I just want the opportunity to fight for you guys and be your voice. My whole goal is rebuilding the image while rebuilding the village, because we have to get back to that village mentality where we took care of each other.
All right.
November 2nd, vote. It counts. Whether you vote for me or somebody else, I need y'all to vote, vote, vote. Nothing can change if you don't utilize that opportunity.
All right. Hey, folks, this has been the Torn Into Political Show. We've had Miss Ebony Gemini, the poet, Davis on with us, and I hope you've gotten something from this show today. As she said, November 2nd, the 2nd is coming. It's an opportunity for you to have something to say. It's an opportunity for you to turn your complaints into action. So hope that you'll take advantage of the opportunity. If you can't get to the polls, again, there'll be opportunities to vote by absentee ballot. Get out and learn who these candidates are. In a few weeks, you're going to see their billboards, their posters, their signs. They're going to be knocking at your door. So take a few minutes and find out who these people are. Okay. Greg, my brother, thank you for allowing me to sit in the seat today. Be well, enjoy yourself, and I will see you when you get back in return. I want to thank, again, our listening audience. Thank PA Big Rob and the folks there for allowing me to sit in and do this program. I believe it's an absolute blessing to our community. All right. All right. With that, we're going to close the show for today. Thank you again, Ms. Davis.
Thank you. See you guys later, November 2nd. Rock them votes, y'all.
All right.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network, home to over 40 black-owned radio stations and podcasts, is here for you. Connect to the world's fastest-growing